Welcome to the Property Bible. This show was created for current property owners, people looking to purchase property, and for professionals in the industry. Hope you enjoy. Welcome back to the Property Bible. My name is Kimberly Ackerman. I'm a buyer's agent from Trelease Associates in Sydney. Today, we're going to be talking about pre-purchase due diligence, part 2, specifically around pest and building reports. Now, everyone needs to get pest and building reports done. It's a pretty integral part of pre-purchase due diligence. So joining me today is Mr. John Markham from Jim's Building Inspections. Welcome, John.
Morning, how are you?
Morning, good, thank you. Now, you and I have worked together for, I reckon, almost two years now. Yeah. You have been in the building industry since you were a teenager.
Yeah, 15,
basically.
Pretty much.
15?
Yeah.
We won't say how old you are now.
Yeah.
But you've had your building license for almost a decade now. So you know what you're talking about. And I always hire you to help out with client inspections because you're very thorough, your reports are very clear, and you're always reliable. Yeah. So thank you. Today, I really want to go through, you know, for people that are ordering pest and building reports and they get that order and they download it, what the hell are they looking at? I want to touch on those big ticket items that we always talk about.
Yeah, on the phone.
Yeah, and just make sure that people have an understanding of what to look for and sort of what to do when they get that pest and building report.
No worries at all.
One big thing that I always tell clients, and you may or may not agree, but once you order the report and you take time to read through it, and I also read the report from beginning to end, to make a time with the inspector like yourself to talk through the report.
100%.
Yeah.
That's the biggest part.
Yeah.
You know, apart from buying the report, looking at it, insurances, I think the biggest part of the whole process is speaking to the inspector, whether that's for, say, 5 minutes or, 10 minutes. Some clients take up to 40 minutes to go through it. Yeah. But at least
we do sometimes.
But that's okay, because at least then you know that you're helping people. It's the biggest investment of their life, most of them. I agree, yeah. And they're so happy when you do take the time to go through it with them. Yeah, I think because a lot of the stuff in the report sounds really bad. Yeah. Most of the time. You guys obviously have an obligation to. Well, there's something that, to be honest with you, there's things you have to put in writing, but then there's also things that you have a good chat to them and say, listen, it is terraces might have issues, but you're looking at it in this area, most of those terraces are going to have those issues. True. Not all, but a lot. I think that sort of brings us to the big ticket items that always come up when we do pest and building reports.
Rising
no matter
damp,
what. Termites, asbestos.
Asbestos, yeah, I'd say. So rising damp, I always feel like the minute a buyer or one of my clients sees rising damps, like alarm bells go off in their head. It depends where you are. Yeah. If you're down in the Shire, then fair enough. But if you're anywhere in the city, in the West, it's pretty common, huh? 7 out of 10 properties would. Really? Yeah. Wow. I can pretty much count the amount of properties this past week that haven't had it. Really? Yeah. And for people who don't know, can you give a bit of an explanation of what is rising damp? So rising damp is, we've got a damp proof course, which essentially stops at a certain level moisture rising up from the ground. Is that like waterproofing for the house? It's called a damp proof course. Okay. And what happens is over time, most of these houses are 100 plus years. They do deteriorate over time. Yeah. Slate, and that's when you get the rising damp drawing up to the brickwork. So it comes up through the ground? And that's correct. The moisture. Yeah. So from what I understand, the moisture comes out of the ground and sort of starts to seep through the house. And if those protectants aren't there appropriately or have deteriorated over time, you start getting that rising damp through the house, which sometimes you can see and sometimes you can't see. 100%. And sometimes they cover them up. So. Yeah, and that's where a new fresh paint, and that's why I say to clients, allow for it in the price. It costs $350 per metre to address it. Right. But I say to clients, let it go for 6 to 12 months, allow for it in your price, but don't act on it. Yeah. Because the thing is, we might get moisture readings the whole way through the house, but doesn't mean you're going to fix every single little thing. Yeah. So let it go for 6 to 12 months, see how much comes up, and then only act on those parts. And the thing I like about having conversations with yourself after we go through a report is we always ask you, how common is this thing? Yeah. How urgent is this? Sometimes it can be something you can just monitor over time. 100%. Sometimes you need to and you're very upfront with us. you always tell my clients, like, you should probably fix this within the first 1 to 3 months of being in the house, especially if you want to take care of it. And the other thing is, how much is it going to cost?
That's correct.
So those are
really, a big part.
Yeah, it's a huge part. Yeah. It's the only part that really matters. I mean,
100%.
If you say it's going to cost $2, they'll be like, yeah, no problem. We're happy to fix it.
But when you start saying 7, 10, 15 grand.
Correct.
Yeah.
It just changes the game. As far as asbestos, now this for me is like a real pain point because, I mean, I've been in the building industry, in the construction industry before I was a buyer's agent, but I guess one thing that people don't understand, which you could probably explain a bit more, like what is asbestos? And I guess a lot of people I speak to just think it's some like chemical or like chemical reaction in the house.
Well, it is a chemical.
It is.
Yeah, it's a material that is fine, and once it gets into your lungs, it's dangerous. But I think we'll hear of bad things come from asbestos, which is fair enough, and that's the majority of the time when they've been working in it. Now, if it's in a sheet material, like most houses, fibro houses, it's not an issue because it's been painted and it's covered.
It's been sealed.
That's correct.
Yeah.
It's only when people start drilling it, pulling it up, the fibres go over, and that's an issue.
So correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But asbestos is sort of like, gyprock that they used back in the day. It's a material.
That's correct. It's a walling material.
It's a walling material.
It can be anywhere. Vinyl, roof tiles.
Really? It can be in vinyl as well?
I think there's up to 3,500 products.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, with multiple types of asbestos, right.
Yeah.
But back then they didn't really know it was bad.
They didn't, no.
So they built houses with it.
So they're building houses, shave it. It's a great product, how it's still standing. Yeah. But it's dangerous.
It's dangerous, especially if you're going to, break it up and
that's correct.
Inhale it for a living. But I think that the thing to really take note of, because I've actually seen buyers come to us and say, we didn't go for that house because it had asbestos. And I'm like, wow, you could have missed an opportunity there.
100%. But I think it's fair enough that if it's a full house inside and out that's asbestos, fair enough. Then it's a fee of removing it and putting material back in there. But if it's most houses in the West that's got double brick, there's only a small amount of it anyway.
And they pretty much used it from, is it the 1980s prior?
Oh, late 70s.
Late 70s.
Until 90, they say.
Right.
Is because everything was still on the shelves.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Interesting. There's a lot of houses with asbestos.
Heaps.
Yeah, heaps. Yeah. Termites is another big one.
Yeah.
How many houses would you say have some form of termite damage?
I reckon at least 50%.
50%?
Yeah, you'd have to, probably more. In the West, more. Eastern suburbs where they've had newer houses, no.
Yeah.
But in the West, you'd have to think 1 out of 3.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
1 out of 3. That's pretty big.
Yeah, but they've been around for 100 years.
They have been.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend for someone if we were to find a house that had some termite damage? Yeah. What would be your first way to approach something like that?
Or termite management systems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Making sure the property hasn't got conducive.
Yeah.
Downpipes are connected, air conditioning overflows connected,
so
gutters are unblocked.
Preventive.
Prevention's better than the cure, especially when it comes to termites.
Yeah, yeah. So putting some prevention in place, making sure that there's no...
But it's not that expensive to do it as well.
Yeah.
$2.5 to $3 grand is like having an insurance policy.
Right.
For 7 to 10 years.
Okay. And would that do the whole house?
Most of the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how often would you have to get...
7 to 10 years, but then you have to get an inspection each year.
Each year, okay.
To keep the warranties up.
Okay, all right. That's not bad at all. And then with the existing damage, I guess it's a matter of just assessing how bad is it?
How bad it is. Most of the time you can leave it as is.
Yeah.
It's, if it's being damaged to a structural element, you're fair enough, replace it.
Yes.
But if it hasn't, just leave it as is.
Leave.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think something that we came across recently is, if you see the word major defect in the report, it's not necessarily like a major defect.
Major, everyone starts thinking about price figures
yes.
when it comes with major.
Yes.
But major means anything that's not addressed that can lead to further damage.
Okay. That's good to know.
So like things such as roof tiles missing, that's a major defect.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. What's something else that's not that major that's considered a major defect?
I think some bathrooms when there's timber underneath there, they're fully rotted out. I think that is, but it's only probably a smaller section of a major defect. Because a lot of people think when they say major defect, it means the whole house is going to fall down.
Yeah,
which it doesn't mean that.
Yeah, not necessarily.
No, not necessarily.
Yeah. So, a lot of the times when we're going through your reports, for example, I always say to my clients, you guys go off and read the whole report from beginning to end. I will do the same. Let's set up a phone call with yourself, and then we can go through it. And I always highlight the bits that I want to ask you questions on, and I get them to do the same. So asking about those major defects, I think, is really important. Even if not everything is considered a major defect, it's good to ask the question just so that they're aware of what they're getting into, basically, in a nutshell. I think we also really need to talk about obstructions and limitations.
Yeah, that's the main one, to be honest with you, because the thing is, most building reports will come back, and, I've been to, like this one that I'm going to today, that they couldn't get in the manhole, but it's just because there was a chair sitting over the top of it. Like, you really want to work out where...
Just because there was a chair over the top.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. But that's where you want to try and work out why aren't these reports full? Yeah. Because of that.
And that's always what I worry about with the vendor reports. Not that they would do that on purpose, but just that they won't go to those extra lengths.
It's just laziness. Yeah. And they don't have to. Yes. Because that's where those obstructions and limitations come in, where if there is something over the manhole, they don't have to pull it off.
And that's usually in a part of the report, isn't it?
That's in the part of the report, yeah.
So in the report, it will say... all right, guys, just to let you know, I wasn't able to get into the roof cavity space because of A, B, C, and D.
That's correct.
Or I wasn't able to get into the subfloors because of A, B, C, and D.
Yeah. And they're the bits that, for instance, if the manhole's not 600 by 600, we don't have to get in there. But no manhole is that big.
Yes. So a good example is that one you did for me for my Canterbury clients. Yeah. The manhole was literally nailed shut. Yep. And you did the full pest and building for the entire house, and basically called me and said,
we need to get in there.
We need to get into the roof.
Because it was a timberboard house.
Yeah, it was a timberboard house. Yep. So I called the agent and said, you need to get the owners to open that manhole.
But that never happens. Yeah. Like, to be honest with you, not many vendors will go that extra length.
They should.
They should, but they don't.
I know. So you thankfully went back to the home after they had pried the manhole open, and then you were able to get into the roof space and let us know exactly what we were dealing with.
Which was lucky. There was no issues.
Lucky it wasn't. But imagine if there had been.
But that's the difference between a half report and a full report. Yeah. Your subfloor and your roof space are the main two parts. So the thing is, if you're looking at a vendor report and it's ticked that there was no access subfloor, no access to roof space, that they're the questions you've got to be asking. Yeah. Because if those two areas have not been inspected, well, then I would suggest getting a second opinion.
Yeah. And is the roofing space and the subfloor, is that where you see the structural issues a lot of the time?
No, you'll see structure on the outside.
Okay.
But those two areas are such a big part, because it all, house is obviously three parts, inside, outside. All ties in. That's correct.
All ties in together. Yeah. So probably just to wrap up everything we've talked about today and give some people some tips, whether or not they're going with someone like yourself or hiring a buyer's agent. I think that a big one is to obviously make sure they read the report.
From front to back.
From front to back, every time. Yeah. Highlight anything that they're concerned about or any questions they might have.
And go through that with the inspector on the phone.
Make a time to go through it with someone like yourself, whether it takes 5 minutes or 30 minutes.
30 minutes, 5 minutes, it doesn't matter. You're paying them to do a job for you.
Yes.
And that's the thing. If you are getting a vendor report, pay that extra money to talk to them.
Yes. And pay the extra money to put it in your name.
100%, because then you've got insurance purposes.
Yes. So what people don't understand is if they don't have the report in their name, if an agent, for example, has just emailed them the report without actually putting it in their name, they have no insurance.
And before the auction.
As well.
So you can't just buy a report.
Yes.
And then think 5 days after an auction, we're going to buy it in our name now.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
Doesn't.
No.
Not at all. So setting up that time, the 3 things I will always ask someone like yourself is, how common is this? How urgent is this?
Yeah.
And roughly what's it going to cost?
And that's a big one.
That's a huge one. Yeah. Doesn't mean you're going to have to give them quotes on the spot, but you're going to be able to tell them whether it's going to be a $300 job or a $3,000 job.
100%.
So to say.
Yeah.
Understanding the seriousness or lack of, I guess, in some areas. So if you see asbestos, rising damp or termites, it's not, that doesn't mean,
a red flag. Well, it is a red flag, but it doesn't mean run.
Yeah.
So it depends what kind of house you're looking at.
Of course.
Yeah.
So understanding the seriousness is a big one. Massive one. Identifying the things to be concerned about and just understanding what those things are going to cost moving forward, not necessarily that they're a make or break item.
Yeah, because every house is going to have maintenance.
Correct.
Every house does have maintenance, and we're not there to find what's good about a property, especially our reports.
Yes.
We're not there, we're not going to say your doors are good or, good painting.
You're just going to give an
we're telling
objective.
You what objective. The whole report's objective. There's not one thing apart from the summary usually.
Yeah. That's
positive about the house.
Yeah. And there's never any reports that are done without bad things in them as well. Like there's always going to be something.
Like 1-year-old house.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be any
But
issues.
there's defects even in brand new builds.
Yeah.
So you can't avoid it. It's just a matter of dealing with what you have, making sure that your budget allows for it.
And just allow for it in the price.
Allow for it in the price and being aware of what you're getting into really.
100%.
Yeah. And I guess read the fine print is probably the biggest one. The obstructions and limitations, which we went through before. If the inspector hasn't had a chance for whatever reason to get into the roof cavity or the subfloors or any other areas of the house, maybe there's a locked room, you just don't know. Understand what they are. Try and get around them like we did with that house in Canterbury. If you can't, just do whatever you can to understand where they were and weren't allowed to get into.
A big thing as well is when you look on, I think it comes up, most reports will come up in the middle or the end, say further inspections.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they're ticked, everything's ticked on there, that's an issue.
Okay.
Because and most vendor reports will have, structural engineer, builder, bricklayer, they'll have everything ticked because essentially that report's not worth more than the paper it's on.
Right.
Because they're saying, go and get further inspections.
From these people.
Every one of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you do a report and you tick those items, is it to sort of say you guys need to do further?
It's more to say that, if there is damp proofing issues, well then a damp proofer should look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's already come up in the main body of the report.
Yeah. Is it sort of passing the buck if all of them are ticked?
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't want that either.
No, you don't.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I think that's pretty much everything as far as, giving people some advice and tips of what they can do when they get these reports. Most people don't know how to read a pest and building report. It's not that scary.
No,
it's
not.
Plain English. It's just a matter of asking the questions you don't know about. There's usually, definitions at the end of your reports, I know.
Definitions, photos.
Yep, photos.
And the phone call.
Yeah, the phone call to ask any questions that you're unsure about. I guess the most important thing is to just understand what you're getting yourself into, be thorough, do your research, always order a pest and building, always make sure you speak to the inspector, even if they push back. Make sure you set up at a time with them. But I think that's it. Thank you so much for your time
worries at all. Thank
this
you.
morning. I know you're a busy man.
No, that's all right.
Hopefully this segment has helped people. Hopefully it's provided some information that's useful. Join us next week for some more educational information around the buying process and property itself. So thank you.